Yeah, well, anyway, he lived right across the street, and he did get his job at the Boulder PD. He was there for about 15 years or so. And then he had to take a medical for one thing or another. He had a couple of bypasses, heart bypasses.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah. What was really, he was really into bodybuilding. He and Tom Kilpatrick. When you were a baby, Tom Kilpatrick helped your mom when a wheel came off your stroller.
Oh, yeah.
Well, anyway, Tom Kilpatrick was another bodybuilder at Boulder, and Craig and Tom were always competing with, like, they wanted to be chosen as the top bodybuilder of the Boulder PD. And one time Craig said that he had taken, well, what do you call it? Some sort of shots.
Steroids.
Yeah, and
Yeah, those are bad.
maybe that's what finally did him. I don't know. He got away from it, though. He says he didn't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, because those could enlarge your heart, too.
Well, he did have heart problems later on.
Yeah.
I went to his wedding with Dawn. Oh, when he had to go to the hospital for something or another in Boulder.
Yeah.
Same hospital where you were born in. And Dawn was a nurse there. He told me this story later, and Dawn was one of the nurses that was assigned to take care of him. And she was an attractive young nurse and married at the time. And they fell in love. And I attended their wedding in Longmont. Yeah, he's laying there on a gurney in the hospital, and she falls in love with him.
That's funny.
Yeah. And it was weird because Jimmy Gallegos, he was at the wedding too. And your mom was at the wedding too. I took her there with me. And Jimmy was he didn't believe in God or anything like that. He was a tough Marine. And I'll never forget, we're all sitting there together. The cops are in the church while the wedding's taking place, and Jimmy cannot sit still. He was like all over them. I mean, he was like, he was like going nuts. And I knew what was happening. I know Jimmy, and he was one mean dude. He had his good points, but I think he had he was like oppressed.
Yeah.
And he couldn't stand to be around anything Christian.
Yeah.
And he got up, and finally he got up and left.
That's weird.
Yeah, he couldn't stand to be in a Christian environment. That's demonic.
Yeah, it is.
And I knew it. I knew with having to work with him day after day what he was like. But he had his good points too. He had his good points. And if you ever needed backup, you'd want Jimmy to show up. One time I took some hump to the hospital, and he was just covered with sores and stuff. And the nurses there, they said, you got to put your hands and you got to let them soak in this big basin of specialized water treated liquid. And he wouldn't do it. And the hump was muttering about how Gallegos had mistreated him in the past. He says, I'm glad you're not to me. He said, I'm glad you're not Gallegos. I said, you better do what that nurse tells you. He said, I'm not putting my hands in there. And I thought, okay. So I get my pack set out and I pretend like I'm calling Gallegos. I said, dispatch 296 here. Have Officer Gallegos come over to the hospital there. Boulder community. There's some guy who will not do what the nurses are telling him to do. And this guy's, oh no, he says, don't send him over. And he splashed his hands in there and he's rubbing that stuff all over.
He was scared of him.
He was scared to death of Jimmy Gallegos.